Okay, let's take a look inside this Wolverine #1, the first issue in Wolverine's first solo series as a character. Written by Chris Claremont, penciled by Frank Miller, one of the greats. Let's get into it. So, for me, I'm a huge Wolverine fan, as probably most of you guys know by now. And so this is just an absolute must-have as a collector's item. And I love how they start off with the splash page, man. Look at how gritty he looks. Look at how gritty he looks. Look at the lineup we have here. Jeez, I said it before, I'll say it again. As far as potential for a series to be great, look at that green box. Is the simplest way I can put it. This is published in 1982, by the way. We've got classic, well, for this time period at least, classic Frank Miller style panels. You know, he likes these long panels. And so do I, to be honest with you, especially when he's doing them. Nothing too flashy as far as the colors, you know. He's not a big fan of painting superheroes in big flashy tights. Not really his style. And Wolverine starts off here in the beginning, you know, just slashing the grizzly bear, which is a story that gets repeated with the polar bear in a couple of the Wolverine origin stories in the more modern comics. And that immediately transitions into the Japanese theme of this whole series. This is basically a whole storyline that's based around the Japanese, what'd you call it? Japanese mafia? Yeah, I guess you could call it Japanese mafia. And his love for the daughter of a Japanese crime lord, basically. Oh, wow. Let's just get me to stop talking. Just look at this panel right here, huh? I really like the way that, you know, sometimes you get a writer and an artist together, and the best way I can describe it is there is synergy. Or in other words, they produce something as a whole with their collaboration that it would be better than if you just were to sum up their individual contributions as individuals. Does that make sense? You know, normally Chris Claremont's amazing, normally Frank Miller's amazing. You put them together, and they make something even more amazing than would be expected. Chris Claremont has a tendency to get a little bit, in my opinion, he sometimes gets a little bit full of himself. And because of that, gets a little bit grandiose in his writing and a little bit wordy. That said, he is one of my favorite comic writers of all time. He goes to Japan to rescue his love and winds up battling some badasses, some samurai type. Samurai might not be the right word, but definitely like, you know, kung fu, karate type scenes here. It's awesome. And for when this came out in the 80s, this is the kind of thing that was hot, you know. Asian martial arts were very hot back then. Even I remember when I was a kid in the 90s, they were still hot. People, you know, who you had a bunch of, where I grew up, it was a bunch of relatively affluent white kids taking karate classes and stuff like that, trying to become black belts and idolizing Asian heroes like Bruce Lee in the movies, and Jackie Chan came along and got a little bit flashy and not quite as cool anymore at that point, if you ask me. But for a while there, it was. I remember it was really cool. And look at these. Look at what Frank Miller does here with, you know, just the way he's depicting the action here. And then of course you move on to his more unusual style panels. I really like the way he does cities and buildings. He's noted for as well. But I really like the way he does city signs here. Look at the coloring on that. I guess that wouldn't be attributable to Frank Miller necessarily. That'd be the colorist. But I think that is a hell of a panel right there. I really like it. Alright, I'm going to stop. That's 5 minutes on Wolvie. And we'll move on to the next book. Oh yeah, nice. That was the end anyways. Alright, we made it through in 5 minutes. Moving on. Alright guys, the next book we're going to look at here is Adventures of the Fly, #1, a book that a lot of people I don't think have really heard about. I have another video that's, I think it's called something like Fun Facts about Jack Kirby, that explains, you know, in total detail the significance of this issue, and I'll just give you a quick little hint, fellers, and a couple ladies I think who are subscribers. It has something to do with that spider web on the cover. You pay attention to the artwork, you judge for yourself what you think is going on here, just to give you an idea. Up here in the upper right-hand corner is the villain, known as the Spider Spry. And down here on the left is the hero, known as the Fly. And there's going to be an origin story in this one, as it is the first issue of Adventures of the Fly, the first appearance of the Fly, I think, as well. And keep in mind that Jack Kirby is working on this. And yeah, I'm going to stop talking so we can start looking. And we're off. If you want more information about the prototype nature of this issue, you can watch that Jack Kirby video that I have. It's one of the earlier ones that I have. And you'll get all the information you want. I'm going to go through this relatively quickly. Here is our first introduction to the Fly. You know, kind of a quirky story. Starts with his origin story here of a little boy who, it's a good story, but it's a little bit cliched now. I don't know how cliched it was at the time. This is 1959, if you can see there. But he's an orphan in an orphanage, and you know, he's got it rough, basically. And they give you an origin story of this orphan boy who, how can I skip through this? Basically, through a series of events, stumbles upon a mysteriously powered object. And let's get to that part relatively quickly. He goes into the attic of the new family that adopts him. And this family apparently says don't go into the attic because, you know, there's dangerous magic things up there. And what does he do? He goes up there and he finds a ring. Gosh, it's keen. Shaped like a bee or a fly. Sure, it is a beauty. I'm going to try it out. Or sorry, try it on. And as soon as he does that, there's this alien fly that comes out to him through some portal. He says, "Who are you?" This fly man looking guy tells him this whole story. I don't want to give away too much. Well, I'm kind of giving away all of it, aren't I? He tells him this whole story about, it's kind of, here, look. Millions of years ago, my people were wise and powerful members of Earth's inhabitants. We developed the science of magic to a degree higher than the humans ever dream about. But greed and struggle for power drove our people too far. Like your own atom bombs, our magic had the force of giants. This, of course, playing off of the typical fear of the atomic age. When this particular comic was published, stories like this were relatively common. You know, post-apocalyptic scenarios from atom bombs, that kind of thing. And the little boy is imbued with the power of the Fly people with this ring. And he becomes the Fly. Our hero. Where it gets interesting. Now just pay attention to the similarities between the Spider Spry. Keep an open mind if you can. And our friend Mr. Spidey. And I don't know if you're going to be able to notice all the similarities because I'm just going to show you the artwork here, but as far as prototype issues are concerned, when you have some of the same creators who are working on this, who are working on Amazing Fantasy 15, makes one raise an eyebrow about why this is not considered a prototype issue for our favorite superhero of the Silver Age for most of us. Anyways, watch that Jack Kirby video I have if you want to get more information on the prototype nature of this. But you can start to see some of what's happening here with the Spider Spry. Kind of looks like a Humpty Dumpty version of a supervillain. And I think that'll do it. Let's see. Yeah, I think the other story is not about the Spider Spry. It's not. So that's all I really needed to show you. And it's been about 5 minutes on that one, but, you know, it's very interesting to me. I don't know why this isn't considered a prototype issue for Spider-Man, guys. If you've read through this, if you know about this story, in Adventures of the Fly #1, tell me what you think. If you don't think it should even be on the possibility list as a prototype type consideration, let me know why. I've kind of given you a little bit of an idea about what I think about it. But, yeah, there it is. Adventures of the Fly #1. Let's move on to our last video here, or our last comic here. Used to be you show this image and most people say, oh, that's kind of cool, look at Daredevil there. Now you show this image and people know exactly what this is. Everybody knows what this is, man. Daredevil #1. Hot book alert! Hot book alert! I suppose I shouldn't be doing inside jokes here with my public YouTube posts, but If you're watching this video, yeah, buddy. Hot book alert. Anyways, I love Daredevil. I love Daredevil. So, I'm lucky enough to have a raw copy of Daredevil #1. It's in low grade to be sure. But let's take a look inside. It's a really good first issue for, Marvel Silver Age Key. I think it basically delivers on all fronts for what you'd want. It's got a kind of quirky, corny almost even, origin story with our first introduction here to our hero, Daredevil. And Bill Everett's doing the art here. I forget how many issues he does it for. I think he might only do it for the first issue, actually. Not sure. I have to check on that. But I think on the cover is Kirby, isn't it, guys? Shit. I wish I knew that. I believe the cover is Kirby and not Everett, but I'd have to double check on that. Anyways, who really cares too much about those credits? You guys can check that out online on your own if you really want. Let's just take a look inside on this. Let's get into the Daredevil origin story, which most people know now because of the Netflix series, right? But great, I think, great artwork for a first issue. I kind of knocked the artwork in this issue in one of my videos, but that's just because of how it compares to the artwork in issues 2 and 3. I think it gets much better. But there are certain panels in this first issue that are surprisingly different from most Silver Age origin stories, the way they're just kind of dark right from the beginning and different, and they have that street sort of feel. Daredevil was one of the few heroes who you could say is more of like a crime suspense sort of story than a superhero story. And Gene Colan was just made for Daredevil once he starts doing his art on Daredevil. Bill Everett here, though, I take it back, man. Look at these panels. These are beautiful panels. Beautiful panels. Great artwork here. Nice action sequence. He's using his Billy Club. And I think after this first action sequence, that's when they give you his origin story. Let's see here. You'll notice I'm not getting too much into plot because everybody knows about Daredevil now, right? He's got his heightened senses from going blind in that accident where he's a kid and he tries to rescue the blind man. Look at him here, guys. Look at his eyes. How do you like that? Oops, sorry. How do you like that for the coloring? Colorist probably had a ball being able to do that. Looks like a devil now. And those this beaded part of his glove here, I think, is just hilarious. He has that on his boots too. It makes him look kind of prissy. But here they start with his origin story, right? And they even, at this point, Stan Lee is just all show, right? So he lets you know, here comes an origin story right here in this panel, guys. Here it is. He's trying to rescue this blind man who's about to get hit by a car. Yada yada, yada 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 yada. He does so, gets hit by a car himself. His eyes get damaged in the meantime, and he, as a result, develops his Daredevil super senses, but goes blind. And all of his other senses are heightened, right? That is the origin story of Daredevil, which is now just as commonplace as, all the Avengers origin stories, and hell, maybe even soon, Spidey origin story? Or am I just getting a little bit hopeful there as a Daredevil fan? Look at that panel right there, man. Yeah, look at those. I was talking about those little buttons, though. Look at them on his booties. Don't they look funny? Took about 7 issues for them to get to that red costume. Not about 7 issues, exactly 7 issues. And once they did, he looked pretty stylish. But he looks kind of goofy here in these early panels. That's all right. We love him anyways, don't we? Yes. Okay, I went a little bit too long on this last one. That's okay. It was for Daredevil. He's worth it. But I do like doing these videos where it's not just, a haul video or looking at the covers over and over again. I like that too. But I do like to get into the stories of these comics. That's what I like most about the comics. Not just the pictures. That's awesome too. Obviously, they're picture books. That's the main part of what makes these comics awesome. But for some reason, I'm particularly attached to the Silver Age storylines, especially those that came out of the Marvel bullpen. All right, fellas, ladies, that is all. Later on.